Today, my guest is Brionne Davis. His experiences as an actor have taught him many valuable lessons in life. To become a working actor, he believes, initially, you must be willing to create it yourself. A man of his own advice, in 2006, Brionne created A Noble Exile, a one-man show inspired by the writings of Tennessee Williams. This personal memoir involved a journey of more than 12 characters from almost every one of Tennessee Williams' most popular plays and short stories. Brionne has had a starring role in Embrace of the Serpent, nominated for the 2016 Academy Award in the Foreign Film category, and winner of the Sundance Alfred P. Sloan Award. Brionne Davis constantly inspires those around him through his personal, metamorphic life experiences of living truthfully and trusting the hand of the universe. He speaks with passion, poetry, and enthralling life experience that inspires a multitude of generations. Brionne is proof that what you visualize is what you receive. Brionne, welcome to Generation Jones.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. It's nice to see you again, Wendi.
Thanks. It's good seeing you. So I really wanted to start this show with going back to the last line of Brionne is proof that what you visualize is what you receive. Can you explain to me a little bit about why you've come to that conclusion?
Sure. I should read my bio more often.
Did you like it? I mean, I literally took that right from your actual bio.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I guess. Visualization is what you receive. Imagination, I think I would take it even that much further with imagination, because inside imagination we get to explore all five senses of what we want our lives to be like. And happiness exists now, and it can exist inside whatever that perspective looks like down the road. You know, I find myself almost every day in a moment of realizing that I'm in that place that I sensed years ago, you know, whether it be, you know, blowing out a birthday cake candle and looking around me and these smiles and laughter and joy and warmth and my dog running up to me when I get home and coming into the house, and, you know, things are being cooked, or, you know, it's just being surrounded by those amazing senses that I thought about or imagined years ago.
You mentioned that you played this wonderful character in Embrace of the Serpent, which was nominated for the 2016 Best Foreign Film.
Mhm.
And you had said to me, and I think you had said somewhere else, but you've said to me in the past, that you had that kind of on your vision board,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, since I was a kid, I went camping in the Ozarks and spent a lot of time in the Ozarks and Boy Scouts, and I was an Eagle Scout, and I learned about Native Americans. And once I learned about Native Americans and my culture and or my ancestry being Choctaw Indian and the Trail of Tears, and when I learned about all that, I had this affinity for understanding the indigenous cultures. And then working on the waterfront in the Ozarks, in Oklahoma, in the canoes and in the rowboats and on the river, which was my home, away
Yeah.
from home. And then making the decision that I wanted to study cultures, and I wanted to study anthropology and the human behavior, and be able to recreate that ultimately as an actor or a storyteller. And then I ended up somehow years later flying to the Amazon jungle and being able to experience all of those components together,
All those skills
traveling the world.
and using them. That's something that I really didn't know. Like I didn't realize that you already knew how to canoe, because most of that movie is you're in a canoe.
Yeah,
You're in a canoe a lot of that
a
movie.
lot.
Yeah. So so take us back to you're from Paris, Texas,
Mhm.
right?
Small town Paris, Texas, about 30,000. Campbell Soup
Is that where Campbell's
factory.
Soup is from?
Yeah, the major factory is there, or
Oh.
it was there.
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
think it still is.
But so here you are, this young boy in Paris, Texas, but yet you ended up studying theater, studying dance,
Mhm.
studying everything, because
Music.
you are one exceptional actor. I
Thanks.
mean, seriously, you are. You know
Thank
that.
you.
You do know that. He's looking at me like I know Wendi.
Well, no, I mean, you know,
Because you are. You're so good.
Thanks.
Yeah. And he doesn't know how to take a compliment. So you're,
I'm appreciative of it. I'm highly
yeah.
appreciative of it.
Yeah, because I've literally, and you know this, I've watched Embrace of the Serpent 5 times. It is my go-to movie to make me feel centered.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
I'll just put it on in the background.
Wow.
And I know that's weird, but I did it a couple of months ago just to have it kind of playing in the house as I was working. Um, but the message of that movie is what is so deep and so defining, and I think that that's why I enjoy it so much. Now, remember, it's all subtitles. It's in 5 different languages. You speak only three words of English in the entire film, but yet I think people walk away from that film just very, very spiritually and emotionally affected.
Yeah, it's a blanket, a woven fabric or a canvas of all of these. I love speaking on senses, and it kind of includes every sense. So if you have it on in the background, you're hearing the tonality of it. You're hearing the message underneath an indigenous language, which you're hearing
The beautiful sound
the
design.
soundtrack, and the designers won multiple awards, and now they have another film called Birds of Passage that's coming out. Um, and he's phenomenal. And there's a heartbeat of his kid in the womb and laying underneath the soundtrack, and it's just so it makes sense that you could have it on
Yeah,
in the background and
yeah.
and have
So
it
that's
feel.
I really recommend it. Um, your your career has been a lot of theater, right? What do you like doing best? Do you love that live audience? I know that we'll talk about that you do coach and teach in a little bit. But what is it that you like doing best? You like making movies? You like being live audience? Or it doesn't matter because you're just passionate about what you do.
I love it. I love it all. I think theater, the last actually live performance I've done was Bent over at Mark Taper, and that was a fantastic summer. I got to spend it with some amazing talents, and I play a Nazi train captain in that, and I was able to understudy Jake Shears in the role of Greta, so I was able to come down off the ceiling in one rehearsal and in stilettos, and that was amazing, and then turn around and play the SS officer and beat the hell out of the gay
Talk about a
guys.
range, right?
Yeah. But it's an amazing play, Martin Sherman, and directed by Moises Kaufman. And Moises is they created they have the Tectonic Theater Company out of New York, and when I was living in New York, he was creating a film, a stage play version of One Arm, which was by Tennessee Williams' short story. And I had reached out to him, and that relationship started 7 years, 8 years prior to me being on stage at Mark Taper, and you never know how relationships
Yeah.
are going to benefit
Blossom,
or blossom or
right? Come back
come
at you.
together.
Hmm.
And that was literally that summer he sent me a message saying, yeah, audition for this, and they brought me in for that, and then I ended up playing 3 or 4 different roles in the show. um, but so live theater, but it takes so much out of your time to do live theater, and a large majority of it doesn't pay a lot.
But is the fulfillment factor different? I mean, it's like um, the only comparison that I can compare anything like that to is this is gonna be funny. That I think it's funny that I worked for Club Med once in my 20s, and as someone that works at Club Med as a GO for Club Med, you also have to be. They have these live performances at night, whether it's lip syncing or whatever. You have to be part. It's more cabaret style, right?
Love that.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I loved it. That's going to be my point. Is that I got paid $300 a month. I worked my butt off all day long, but at night I lived to go up on that stage with that live audience and just make a fool of myself
Yeah.
if that's what I had to do. I loved it. It was so gratifying.
Yeah. And it's gratifying because you are changing lives. You're making people, you're affecting people. You're taking them away from their woes for the day. You're making them feel like uh, they can escape something or reflect upon something in themselves and not take full responsibility. Or if they're willing to take full responsibility of how they need to change, live theater does that. Same as film, though. The thing I like about film is that you work, and you're doing the film, and then a year later the film comes out, so it's almost like you're working again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you kind of, I like to sit in the back of the audience and watch people's
Watch.
reactions. Or
Yeah. I have such a. I know that you also speak, right? So you'll speak at some events
Mhm.
and do that. And I kind of like to liken it. I like to speak also. I always tell people I'm better speaking to 1,000 people than I'm more comfortable speaking to 1,000 people than I am speaking one on one with someone.
Mhm.
And I think once you are on a stage and the audience and you have this almost control and you can say and do really whatever it is that you want to
Yeah.
do, it's I really think that's the heart of the gratification. Is because it's not a control that's a sick control, you know, but it's a control of fulfillment. Look at where I am, look at who I am. They're looking up at me and I am entertaining you, I am teaching you, I am speaking to you, and you're listening to
Yeah.
me.
That I think there's 2 points that you bring up there. One is that you've arrived in a place in your life where you have this many people that are listening to you, and I'll find myself just stop for a second and go, I have something to say that they want to hear, and that elevates my confidence and makes me realize that wow, this is kind of where I've landed since I
Yeah.
was in Paris, Texas, playing Tom Sawyer, and so those are fulfilling. But I always say this, and like you mentioned earlier, I teach and I mentor younger actors and younger storytellers, and you have to have a mission statement. And sometimes I'll say, "Why do you want to be an actor?" And they'll say, "Well, I love the applause," or "I love this," or it just seems thrilling to me." And I said, "Why do you love the applause?" "Well, it just because it's gratifying." Well, the reason why we love the applause is because we're affecting people. We're changing lives. We're making people feel something. We're making people in the world feel like that they're not alone. And that's why it's gratifying, because even if you look and even if we look at what acting is or storytelling is on the surface as something being egocentric or masturbatory or whatever, I think there's people that do see it that way. At the end of the day, every single actor, I think, that especially has a career of longevity and really values the craft of storytelling, or director or producer, they really want to have they're doing it as a mission, they're doing it as a service. And I think Boz mentioned that earlier, and I really appreciated that. I think y'all were talking about being of service,
Hmm.
and I think that that's it. I think that when we find ourselves in the daily, and we there's a tactic, acting exercise, and a philosophy that you always put your interest on the other. So if I'm trying to educate you or inform you or change your opinion because you're my scene partner,
Hmm.
the other character, then all my attention is on you. So to get from you what I need, and but if our attention is on us and ourselves only, we can go
Hmm.
to these horrible, dark,
Hmm.
twisted places and self-evaluation, because we've got this brain up here that's telling us all these falsities about ourselves, and it's lives safely. The brain lives safely.
My little grandma, who lived to be 105 years old, she would always say to me, "Just ask people about themselves. You don't have to worry ever about having a conversation with anyone if you just ask them about them and let them talk." And it because I can be rather shy kind of in like networking or one-on-one
Hmm.
things. People think that's the weirdest thing with me, but I can be. You know, I hate the question, "Tell me about yourself." I do. I'm like, "Oh God, I gotta, where do I start?"
Hmm.
Right? Or "You don't know me?"
Yeah.
You know, do I really have to spend time telling you who I am? But Grandma always said people love to talk about themselves. They love it when you're interested in them.
100%. And then they love you
Yeah, then they love
because they've
you.
spent,
20 minutes
how
talking
talking about
about
themselves.
how
Yeah,
wonderful they
which is
are.
great. Which is
Uh-huh.
great. And I think that that's uh, obviously we can't be in a full conversation or dialogue if we're not, sharing our,
Yes.
our
Yeah. Yeah.
opinions of the other or life experience.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we were talking the other day because you're 42.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is very
And
strange.
well, for you, that's very strange,
Hmm.
right? So imagine being 62,
Right? I woke up
right?
this morning thinking that.
Yeah. Um, And I'm going to tell you something. Those 20 years, they kind of like fly right by,
I know.
So when I was 42, actually I had met my last guest
Hmm.
at 40, right? So, and I can't tell you, my life has really done a lot of stuff. I've been through a lot in those 20 years. But regardless of any of that, we were talking because I first approached you and I said, Brie, you had said to me once in your backyard at a birthday party when I had told you that someone had said, "Oh, you can't make that transition in your life to being a host or on whatever TV," and I thought, okay, you're right, I can't, right? I'm
Hmm.
too old, whatever. And you said to me, oh, that's ridiculous. You're never too old to do the things that you really love. That's ridiculous. And so I thought, well, that would be awesome. I'm going to have Brionne on and we're going to talk about your attitude towards older people that maybe come to your acting class and they really want to pursue a new acting career or something that they've always wanted to follow their passion, and now here they are standing in front of you,
Yeah.
which you would never discourage. But then it went to another step where you were really saying, I was telling you about how the show is kind of morphing into this community of people looking for the what now, and there's a lot of us out there. And you said to me, that's me. And you at 42. But it's you at 42 because you have accomplished a lot in your life, and now you're wise. You have a lot of wisdom, and now you're seeking the same thing that we're seeking. I want to use the word fulfillment as opposed to purpose because I think fulfillment will come in all different kind of variations. But tell me about how you're feeling.
Well, I just turned 42 this past summer, but the past 2 years, I would say there's been a big shift. There's been, the metamorphosis post Oscars and traveling the world and doing speaking engagements, this amazing film, and then coming back to, kind of a big lull in my creative energy. And, when you accomplish something really extraordinary in your life, artistically, um, business wise, and you're doing, these amazing things, then it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to create a story and to.
Is it is Do you think there's no higher high unless you're nominated as best actor, right?
Mhm.
Than to be involved in something that is nominated for an Academy Award, regardless of if it wins or not. It doesn't make any difference. That whole experience is something probably every actor strives for,
Yeah,
right?
it was pretty miraculous. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you went through that whole thing, and then what you're saying is afterwards. Do you think your expectations were something different than what the reality was, or do you think that because you have you get to that high, you feel so great, it's so wonderful, you kind
Hmm.
of that dopamine thing, where you just want to go forever, and then you do kind of have to float back down onto earth and deal with
I
you
felt
know
like I was grounded through the whole time. Don't feel, going back to that imagination
yeah,
and sensing yourself
yeah,
there with all, I'd done that. So
yeah,
in a way, I'd already sensed myself being there.
yeah.
And there's other films that I've been on when I'm shooting in the desert. I've sensed myself there already. So when I'm going through the experience, it's, oh, I've been here. Does that make
Well,
sense
then
to
you
you?
already knew they weren't going to get it.
Well, but you know what I mean. But
Sorry,
that part you can't you
right, right,
can't.
right, right. That's a
You know what
joke.
I mean? But the senses,
Hmm.
experiencing, meeting the amazing people that I got to meet and building those relationships, and I think I'm in a place now where, and literally when I was at Cannes, I thought to myself, with the artistic expression that this film gave to
Yeah,
the world, and then my own life experience shooting the film and then watching the film, and then the success, the superficial success of the film, um, at the end of that I was like, oh, I've done it. Now what? And the amount of, like I was saying earlier, the amount of work that goes into creating a project, developing a project, and all of those things. I'm trying to find my juju again.
what's the
You know.
difference? What's the difference between the okay, So are you saying that, do you want to strive for that again, or do you feel as though you want to strive for something different than
Something
that?
else, something, as extraordinary, and I don't know necessarily what that is right now. But going back to, metamorphosis and change and perspective of the world, and, um, I'm just kind of looking for kind of just opening myself up to whatever that new thing is. And it definitely dives into uh, teaching and
Sharing your wisdom,
mentoring,
sharing
sharing
your
wisdom and
experience.
experiences, and inspiring other people, and also acting more and directing more and producing other things. I've got another film that hopefully we're in pre-development for, is called 6 Miles, which is really, really great. But there's a lot of pieces that we're putting together to make it happen, and hopefully I can come on board as the main lead actor, and
Right.
it's a phenomenal. I think it would do. I would. Um, it's a beautiful, amazing thriller. Um,
You like those. What
I
kind of,
do.
it's just, I'm sitting here going, I have to ask you before I forget. Because you really play like, the- you play some pretty crazy characters,
Yeah.
right? So but you were recently in Castle Rock,
Yeah. I
right?
played yeah.
And you played, that was a
Garret Coyne.
Stephen King,
Yeah.
it's not on Netflix.
Yeah.
Netflix?
No,
Hulu?
Hulu.
Hulu.
Yeah.
And you played, you've played you scare the crap out of me when when I'm watching it. I was going, oh God. But the characters that you're playing is like, because I know you, I see this transformation in how you play these characters. It's just, it's crazy.
Hmm.
So what is your favorite type of character to play?
I like those.
You do?
Yeah, because there's less boxes you can put them in. And you shave my head and put Nazi tattoos all over me, Wendy, and I sit here and I talk to you just like I'm talking to you now. It's even that much creepier.
Oh,
You know what I
it
mean?
is.
Like you're to play a quote unquote bad guy, they still have hopes, they still have dreams, they still have needs, and it's up to me as the character to justify
Yeah,
whatever
but
those
Brionne, the way
are.
that you do it, I mean, you have the whole, the facial expressions, the mouth, the way you speak, the eyes. I mean, it's so I'm not an actress. I've never been an actress. I could be a host, but I'm not an actress, right? And I just watch how you do that. You just, your body, your physical, everything, your actions, everything's like Boz. He plays Boz, okay? That's who he plays. You don't play Brionne. You never play yourself. You're playing a real complex characters in all the work that you do.
Sure. I mean, and if Boz is playing himself, then that's pretty complex too. Inside each of us is everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And once you tap into that, the recognition that inside of me is an understanding and empathy for Wendy,
Yeah.
then I can, in turn, have an expression of Wendy, and I'm the medium in which
Yeah.
the character of Wendy is being perceived to the audience. And so once you tap into that, and that initially takes a really strong sense of knowing who you are, so that you can be vulnerable and empathetic. And, I think that that's the journey. But I could never in a million years be a CIA agent.
But you could play
I
one.
could play one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
You
could
could play
certainly
one.
play one.
No, you couldn't. I mean, that,
I mean, that's extraordinary.
yeah.
And that's what I was in tears with that story that you shared, Boz shared with you, and the girls. And I
Yeah,
mean,
in the Mogadishu.
that's heroic.
Yeah.
That's not just heroic, but it's the stars and the sky, and going, what am I supposed to do? Oh,
I'm the answer.
I'm the
Yeah.
answer. Oh my
Yeah, and
gosh.
then that inspired his arc. So if for anyone listening to this episode that hasn't listened to the episode with Basil Boz, that's what we're talking about, because we were sharing the studio today. So that
So
was,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a pretty remarkable, service, someone who has served our
Hmm.
country and continues to serve, not
Yeah.
literally, but yes. Um, okay, so let's get back to that
Sure.
transformation. Okay, 42. You're going through it. You're seeking. What are you seeking? If you could put it in a few words, it's like, what do you? You're like, you're saying, I think what I said before was like you feel it when you know it, or you know it when you feel it. You know when it's coming. But there is this very long span of time when we start moving into this part of life that is not about hunting and gathering, but more about using the wisdom of hunting and gathering to live that life of fulfillment and peace
And to share with others.
and to share with
Yeah.
others. Yeah.
Um, okay, so what's been going on with me is a mind shift, a waking up kind of identity, trying to figure out who I am in this new part of my life. And looking around me and going, I am so happy. I have I have on a very small scale compared to billions and billions of dollars, I have a wonderful home
Hmm.
with an incredible partner, an incredible roommate, a dog, another dog, a cat, this amazing yard, and we live in Glendale, and I get to teach students, and I teach at a film school, studio school downtown, theater history. I get to dive into that again. I get to teach them how to act and dissect scenes and characters. And I have my own studio in North Hollywood, and I get to inspire and help carry these amazing talents through their own frustrations, and because I've been there and I get it. That's thrilling to me, and that's something that I don't take for granted, but I don't want to be comfortable. You know what I mean? I feel like in this happiness, there's also
The fear of falling down.
or just kind of being complacent, and I think financially,
Yeah.
and this is my big thing, Wendy, is I have to figure out how to, and I love speaking truth, and I have to figure out my relationship with money because there's and money's my big hurdle is I don't know if I don't value it or if I don't,
Fear it.
or maybe I fear it because when I was growing up it was feast and famine, mostly famine, but we had love, and I knew that there was a value in my dad saying I love you every single day. I'm proud of you, son. Oh my gosh, those words
Hmm.
fulfilled me, and I value that, but I also see how much stress, a lack of,
Money.
money can bring to a very otherwise happy situation. So I think that that's my big struggle right now
When
in
you
just
say
terms
that,
of the,
Brionne,
in,
when you say you don't have the, I I too have that, and at 20 years later in life, I still don't have that really kind of groovy relationship with money. It's like it comes, it goes, comes, it goes, comes, it goes, comes, it goes. But it rarely stays, you know, and stays nicely. And then we start to make sacrifices because of money. I've had this conversation with some artist friends of mine the other night who are my age, very nice artists, friends, always been, known them for 30 years. And when I was talking to one of them, she said, "Well, I'm doing it because of the money." And I said, "Well, that's the problem." Because I really didn't like what she was doing, and I had to be honest. She's in a collaboration with someone, and I was not the caliber of creativity and work that she should be doing, that she is capable of doing and has done. And just because somebody came to her and said, "I'll pay you this to collaborate with me," now you're compromising and collaborating because of the money. I think that's an issue for a lot of people that, especially as you get older, it's like, but the money is good. I'm in that situation. But the money is good, so I'll take this gig, but then you're kind of unhappy about it, or your relationship with my relationship with money is I have $20 in my purse, I got to spend it. But that's my relationship. I don't know where that comes from, but I don't think about it. I really don't. I don't think about it. And it's not because I have so much of it. It's quite the opposite. It's probably because I don't have so much of it. I feel as though I have to be able to spend it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know for me what it is. It's certainly something I'm diving into
But
because
when you
I've,
say relationship with money, I don't think I understand what you mean.
okay, it's how I invite it into my life, and how, because what b- I value relationships, I value life experiences, I value those things, and money to me, and I see what it does. I don't want to get into
No, no,
a
no. It's okay.
negative thing,
Right.
but I see what it does to the system. I see what it does to relationships. I see what it, and how can we, you know,
How can
in
you
a
have both?
capitalist market, to the degree that it is capitalist now, how can we go back to the 1930s, 40s concept of capitalism so that everybody benefits from it. And I think right now that there's just such a fight to where people, going in, they're raising the retirement age, and there's pensions being taken away from people, 65, on the just right there where Jen Jonesers exists.
Right.
These pensions are being taken away, and I have a very good friend who was lost his job after being there for 15
Yeah.
years, and anyway. So I I don't want it to turn into a
No,
negative thing, but the
it's not. I asked a question about money because when you say relationship with money, I think personally, I think I really don't really have a very good relationship with money because I really don't care about it that much. But it's a necessity to live. I fear not having enough. I fear getting older, not really. Here I am. I didn't. A lot of Generation Jones people, don't have a retirement. I don't know what the frick we were thinking, but it's like, hello, we woke up and then we have no retirement, and now we're struggling, going, but wait a minute, I'm still young enough. But oh my God, I'm going to live another 30 years. That means that I have to save. And because in California, to live is very difficult. You have to have a lot of money a month to just afford your overhead. And as you get older, you start going, help. But it just gets a little more challenging.
and
That's
this is
all.
what I would say to that, and this is kind of what I like to do, is shift that mindset to going back to that imagination, going back to that visualization, going back to seeing, and this is how I deal with it, is going back to seeing yourself living inside all of those senses. How does it smell? Who are the people that are around you? Are they laughing? Are they smiling? Do you have a roof over your head? Do you feel comfortable in your environment? And so once I start going into that, the tangible green that is money, which is hardly tangible anymore, it goes into
Hmm.
direct deposit, and then you never really see green much. It's not about that. So my idea of that has shifted. And now it is just really focusing on, okay, I need to visualize, I need to imagine my retirement. I need to visualize and imagine, change my frame of thought,
Yeah.
because thought is everything.
Right.
Is everything. And it's not just thinking it, it's not just necessarily visualizing it, it's imagining. It's
Yes, it is.
imagining
It
it.
is. And it's like shooting those rockets of desire, because desire is the thing that I think once we lose our desire for things is when we kind of start to grow old, and uh, just accept what's around us because we don't really desire anything that much. But I think that things come to us from we can say the universe, from God, wherever it might be, because we're shooting off these rockets of desire. I totally believe, and it might be cliche, that you have to envision that thing happening. You have to listen. You have to listen. I mean, you got to listen because those voices and those messages are everywhere.
Just like with Boz earlier, just like me on top of that mountain in Colombia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, just like me laying in the bed, and
yeah.
I literally said, I can't do this. And then I heard the voice. So you have to fall,
Mhm.
you have to go down in order to come up. You have to be able to, in order to see the light, you have to get into the
Mhm.
tunnel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And everyone, I think, goes through the tunnel if they don't go through the tunnel a few times.
yeah. There's going back to kind of what we were talking about earlier about the dreams and having pursued something at a certain age, or whatever. Two of my students, now one's a former student, and then one's a kind of a continuous student. Came back to an acting career. One of them came back to an acting career after raising her kids. She's there in, I think, junior high school now, after battling cancer. Um, and she came back full force, stronger than ever, wanting, desiring. Camille Land is her name, and it's just inspiring. And she's looking at it from a vibrant perspective, and experiencing all these wonderful things. And she's got
She's
that
looking
hope. And
at it from a if not now, when?
yeah,
If I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? And it doesn't matter if I fail.
yeah,
It doesn't matter if I win.
yeah.
I've done it,
Yeah,
you
and then
know.
another one is Linda Rich, and she's been on Comedy Central, and she's done these, and it's phenomenal to see, and to be able to reclaim a new chapter in your life, uh, and she's a Jen Joneser, Linda is, and just a phenomenal human being. But I tell you what, there is a role out there that needs to be filled in every story by every single age, and it doesn't matter. That's the great thing about being an actor is that you can always, because they're always going to need an age range. And
Yeah, uh, I'm just finding it fascinating. I was contacted by a few people this past week that are just women over 60 that are basically kind of blowing it up on Instagram. Honestly, it's crazy what's on Instagram with people
yeah,
over 50, over 60. It's like I had no idea. Um, but what it's doing is it's like I'm getting like emails or text messages, which I never check like my message things on on like Instagram or on LinkedIn or whatever. But anyway, all of a sudden I'm finding these things and it's like, I really want to be on your show. I've been looking for a place to talk about this place in life that I'm in, that is kind of a little bit of hell, because until you see the light in the tunnel, you really are frickin' in hell,
yeah,
Brion. You're like, where am I going? What am I doing? I have this great past, and like I said earlier, doesn't matter how much money I have in the bank. It doesn't matter how many houses you have. It doesn't matter what you drive or the watch that you wear or the shoes that you wear. You still have this inner desire to find more, to be
to
more, to be
create.
fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, and I think it's great. I think and you're lucky to have it. Anyone who wants that and sees it and can address that in themselves is very lucky to
without
have
going
it.
into a state of depression, I mean, there's like, there's a statistic, and I posted it on Instagram yesterday. Did you know that 13 people every minute turn 60 years old? 13 people every minute. You know, that's crazy. On my drive over here, we a ton of people
Yeah.
just in the time I've been here this morning. Look at all the people. They turned 60 years old. So it's a huge demographic. And I bet you it's like the pharmaceutical companies are probably going, yeah, let's sell all those depressed 60-year-olds some pharmaceuticals.
Ugh. Yeah, don't get me started on that.
No, seriously. You know?
Because there's such work with shift of thought. It's and changing your thought processes, and as difficult as it is, you just got to do it.
The, the key question for me, for
Hmm.
you is, okay, in 20 years, I know it's such a stupid question, but in 20 years, where do you want to be? Not by saying I want to be retired or I want to be this or I want to be that. I want to have $12 million. Where do you want to be, spiritually, personally, and then where do you see possibly the 20 years after that?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really, really good question. And I think that that's one I'm trying to answer now because I knew where I wanted to be by the age of 40 and I arrived and to that place. And now it's just kind of taking a step back and saying, you know, uh, let me look and see what this looks like now in 20 years.
So you don't feel we have to set those kind of unrealistic goals to reach a certain place? Like, do you feel that it's okay to let life flow to you and flow with you, and
I think
or
it's great to have. No, I think that it's good. This is what I always say is create that big picture visualization, whatever that is for you. Whether it be a house with a family and a certain car and vacations or that book that you've written that's in your hand, whatever that is for you, and have those, and then let it go, and then know and trust that every day you're taking steps in that direction. I think for me, this whole shift in the past 2 or 3 years has just been this kind of not about face, but this transition, this beat
it's a
change.
transition, yeah, because
Yeah,
you are happy. You're so,
yeah.
you know,
And
you
I always have been, honestly.
yeah,
And
but when I met you, which was a few years ago, you were seeking a great partner in
yeah,
life.
yeah,
And that happened.
yeah,
You were just, you were in a really different place, if
yeah,
I may say. You
yeah.
were.
Yeah, that's true. I was on quite of an adventure.
Yeah.
Um, for sure. And yeah, and then So yeah, I'm looking at all of those components, all of those elements now, and going, okay, now I get to do another coloring book of
Yes, you get to do another
that
goal. What a
20.
great attitude.
Yeah,
I
and
love that.
and I think that's just kind of where I'm sitting at. I'm not trying to force myself to create it. I love this concept of procrastination because procrastination, I say do what you know
Isn't
to
it
do
more
when you know
awareness,
to do it.
Brionne, than it is
Yeah.
procrastination? It's like you're self-aware. You're you're aware of the good and the bad, but you're also self-aware that, okay, this is a transition that I'm going through in my life. You'll go through a few more probably, right? Um, but because we're starting to talk about the thing that bothers me the most a lot is that I think there's a lot of depression in people as they get older, or diagnosed depression in people as they get older, that isn't really depression.
Um, my days have seemingly been wake up, and I wake up earlier, and the night comes so quickly, and it reminds me of in Tennessee Williams' play Orpheus Descending. Valentine Xavier says, "You ever get the feeling like you're waiting for something, just something to happen, something to make things make more sense? Well, and you're just sitting there and you're waiting, and day turns into night, and night turns into day, and hell, you're just sitting there and you're still waiting, and nothing ever changes, and then you get the answer: love, love." That's the answer that's fooled many people besides you and me, Wendi.
Yeah, that was so great. Oh my God, but it's true. You say
That
you had tears from the lesson, and I have tears in my eyes now.
day turns into night, and night turns into day, and you're still standing there and you're waiting. Why wait?
Hmm.
Like, do something every day to love yourself, to love somebody else, be of service, and the the commercialism of what we live in society today is it makes you feel like you're not enough,
Yeah, doesn't it?
and it's just completely inaccurate.
But but there's so much of that out there, and you know, you're really touching on my heart right now, because as opposed to it getting easier, it feels as though it almost gets more difficult, because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. This addiction to being compared and seeing what other people are doing, and uh, it's miserable. And
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that what you're doing is great, and I
thanks.
think everybody should just. I was taught to respect my elders, and uh, now I'm realizing that I'm an elder to other people, and I demand that respect, that mutual respect, and I know you respect me, and I admire you for what you've done, and you never know. I would never have walked into a coffee shop and seen Boz and go, that's his life experience. But you
You
look
would
in his
never think that.
eyes
Yeah,
and you can see it.
yeah.
And that is earned respect, earned admiration, earned appreciation. And his whole philosophy on life is warranting younger generations to go, all right, I have respect for that man. And the same for you. How can you deny a person who's lived 62 years and uh, and a life experience and not be able to gain something from them?
Thank you. That's the whole thing, is wisdom is to be shared. You mentioned elders. Wise elders were always sharing their wisdom. That's what made them an elder. Respect your elders. And that's what we become, is we become elders, but not everyone becomes a wise elder. And that's the difference.
Yeah, and it's not only that; it's honoring.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
it's it's having honor for them.
So, you know what? I have to wrap it up, but I love you, and
Ah, I
I'm
love you too.
so happy that you came and kind of got through this morning with us. But Brionne Davis, thank you so much for being here.
I was very happy to be here.
Well, that's a wrap for this week's episode. You can find us everywhere you download your podcasts, and when you do, please leave us a review. If you have a topic or a guest you'd like to suggest, go to generationjonespodcast.com and send me an email. Make sure to follow us on social media at Jen Joneser or at C-Spot Talk. Generation Jones was produced by C-Spot Run Productions, editing and music by Orsi Digital Media, and a special thanks to Ari Morel for her help each week. See you next week, and thanks for listening.